So writers write, painters paint, musicians play. Is it a burning need to go out and play at this point in your career? You're touring like a madman this year.
Well, I wouldn't know if it was a burning need unless I didn't do it for a few weeks, and then maybe it would be burning, or or just a slight sense of missing something. I don't really know, because we're usually, trying to do shows on a fairly regular basis, and I decided quite a few years ago that the best way of keeping in mental and physical trim to do concerts is to keep doing it. There is that concern if you fall off the bicycle, you might not be able to get back on and pedal again. It's good to keep pedaling. Don't dismount. Seems to be the best plan. But I think performing live has always been for me the more enjoyable way of making music. I don't particularly like sitting in a windowless room for months on end making an album. It's not something I've ever really enjoyed, and at this point in my life it's really not a priority to do that. So most of the time in the last few years we've been doing concerts, and as indeed we are all the way through this year. So next year, I've said to my agents, this really is the year. 2011 is the year when I'm going to cut it back to maybe 70 or 80 shows instead of 120 shows or whatever.
Which is still more than most bands. You look well, but you're not feeling 100%. Little chest thing.
Yeah, it's been going around for a few months, and a couple of guys in the band, as well as me, we've had various recurring chest infections from various bugs, and my wife got it about 3-4 weeks ago, and I came down with it on the second night of this tour. It was she'd already had the thing for at least 2 weeks then, and I'd managed to keep my distance, but in stuffy hotel rooms with windows that don't open, and it's not so easy. So not that I'm blaming her, but it is
proximity is everything.
Yeah, because probably I gave it to her in the first place some previous occasion.
Is it true? Well, I'm not afraid of flying. I'm afraid of crashing. Do you still have that fear? Did you have that fear? Flying in airplanes?
Yes, I don't travel well in the sky. It's because of over the many years that I've been flying. I've had a few, frightening incidents in various kinds of aircraft, and you feel like a cat that's used up most of its 9 lives. It doesn't make me look forward to flying out of Chicago on Monday late afternoon, because the weather forecast is not good, for a distinct likelihood of thunderstorms, as is pretty common for Chicago at this time of the year. So we have a good chance of having a potentially nasty flight getting out of Chicago.
What do you do to combat it when you're on the plane, to calm yourself? Anything?
There's nothing I can do at all. That's the frustration. I'm not a person who feels happy being in that claustrophobic environment and not being able to do anything, and also not knowing about the facts. United Airlines is one of my least favorite airlines in the world, except for one thing. It's the only airline that you can sit on and put some headphones on and listen to air traffic control and the communication between the pilot and the ground. And so constantly you're being given information. If there's some nasty chop up ahead, you can hear him talking about it, and maybe then requesting change of altitude, and it gives me some comfort knowing someone is at least sitting up there doing something about it. But so often pilots don't communicate with their passengers at all, and that's what makes me, I think, very frustrated, and but makes me feel even more threatened, just the lack of knowledge as to what's going on.
But imagine, if it were the worst thing and something really bad were to happen, I almost think ignorance might be bliss in the last moments of...
Well, maybe it would be in the Air France flight that flew through an area I've flown through many times, flying from Brazil back to Europe. It's a notorious turbulent area with thunderstorms pretty much all the year round. It's a nasty bit of air to fly through. And for some reason that is still not known, an airplane just tore itself to pieces, probably through human error rather than equipment problems, but it's it doesn't make me feel any better, you know, when you have major aircraft disasters that are still not understood as to the causes. So no, I much prefer to know what's going on. I don't like ignorance is bliss. Might be bliss for some people who just sit in first class and order another bourbon and coke or whatever they're doing. But no, I'm not one of those. I prefer to sit with a glass of water and tremble in fear.
Is there anything you know now that had you known then, the course of your life might have changed perhaps dramatically?
In regard to what? Aircraft travel or
No,
anything?
Anything. It's something, you know.
Well, yes, I think the one fundamental thing is that I should have paid more attention in history class at school, because then I might have known when our agent in 1968 named us Jethro Tull that he named us after a dead guy who invented a seed drill, and instead that was blissful ignorance. You see, I thought, oh, it sounds like a fun name, you know, Jethro Tull, you know, kind of okay, a bit like Robin Hood or something, you know. But I didn't know until it was rather too late, in the sense that we were just after we'd been called Jethro Tull, and within 2 or 3 days we had played at the Marquee Club in London and been given a residency there, and so we really had to stick with the name we had. We didn't want to change it again. We changed our name so often in the early days. So yeah, it's a name that I rather regret. I mean, I don't mind the Tull part. It's just Jethro, so reminiscent of, you know, whatever, country
Jethro.
bumpkin.
Jethro Bodine from the Beverly Hillbillies.
That's it. Yeah. Well, you see, Jethro is actually a traditional West Country English name, and Tull is also a name that is, you know, is very traditionally English. But so in that sense, it's okay, but it is just startlingly unoriginal to have a name that is, you know, as I say,
Are you just sick of people asking you about the name? Is that what it is, really?
not really.
No.
No, I'm the older I get, the more I look forward to saying how disenchanted I am with the name Jethro Tull. It's just one of those things. If there was the possibility to go back and just rewrite a little bit of personal history, it would be to have been called something else. But certainly not to have been called some of the other names that we had at the time. There was a record producer who briefly came into contact with us, who came up with some pretty horrible sounding, rather hippie-ish names that would have been infinitely worse than Jethro Tull.
Ozzy told me a story a couple of weeks ago, and I want you to confirm or deny it, because he admits in his book that his version of the story may not be the version everyone has. He said that when they were Earth, pre-Black Sabbath, in Birmingham, one of the things they would do against all odds was show up at a venue in hopes that the headliner wouldn't show up, and they'd go out and get their gear in the van and go in and convince the proprietor to let them play.
Right.
He said that happened when you guys, Jethro Tull, were broken down on the M1 or something, and they got to fill in. And he swears he saw you come in and they were on stage playing, and he was so proud, and he thought that you were okay with it.
Well, I actually don't remember that, but I do remember with that band playing with it. I think it's some university gig or somewhere in the UK, and it was subsequent to that Tony Iommi came briefly to fill in for us on a TV show we did with the Rolling Stones. But you know, my only memory of actually really meeting and having any kind of discourse with Ozzy Osbourne was when, ironically, he was ill and unable to do the show, and this was, you know, 7 o'clock in the evening or something, after sound check or whatever, and he had the courtesy to come and knock on my room door and say, listen, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to play tonight, and I don't know if you guys want to just do the whole thing, or we all cancel or whatever. You know, it was some kind of double headline thing with Jethro Tull and Black Sabbath, and he was, you know, I thought it was quite a gentlemanly thing to personally come from his sick bed and say, I'm sorry, I can't go on tonight. And other people might have just jumped in the limo and, you know, just walked away. But I think I'm pretty sure actually we just just became a Jethro Tull concert, and hopefully nobody asks for their money back. At least they're not chasing me. So remember that concert in 1969.